Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thanks so much for dropping by. Um, Here we are, another day of life in these amazing, glorious bodies here on this unspeakably beautiful earth. I went out walking today and I walked by the ocean and there was a sea lion swimming. And oh my gosh, maybe 20 feet away from me. And it was so amazing. But not just that, not just the sea lion very close, but just life itself, creation itself. And Bruno Groening pointed out that human beings have moved so far away from God and from God's creation, from nature, and that that's the root cause of all our problems. And the solution is to move back towards those things. So let's do a little bit of that now. For anyone who's new, this is all based around the teachings of a man named Bruno Groening, whose picture is right behind me, who was active in post-World War II Germany. And around him and through what he taught, the unspeakable happened. Blind people regained their vision. Paralyzed people stood up out of their wheelchairs. Deaf people regained their hearing. And what he said is that what he was sharing was simply the teachings of Jesus Christ. Not in the religious sense of the word, but more in the spiritual sense of the word, meaning the way of life. And maybe we even drop the spiritual sense of word, the way of life, the path that Christ called all of humanity to, of trusting in God, of thinking good thoughts and doing good deeds, and being of service and cultivating love, and ultimately learning the laws of creation and how to be an instrument of healing and how healing happens and how ultimately to free ourselves from everything not good and live the life that God intended for us, a life of peace and health and happiness and harmony. For more information about this, you can see my website, www.thehealingstream.org. And so, right now, that's what we're going to do. Connect to the healing stream, which is the divine energy. It could also be called the healing wave. Christ called it the waters of life. Well, we don't know exactly what Christ called it, but the translation we have in English is that he called it the waters of life. So how to take in these waters of life, how to take in the healing stream. It's actually very easy. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in an upright position, not too stiff, but definitely not slouched over or leaning against your chair, if you're able. And if you're not able, you can lean against your chair or you're welcome to lie down. It's just this is the way that the energy is taken in most strongly. And then please close your eyes and now hand over all burdens, all worries, all judgments, any situations that we're worried about, and trusting them to a higher power. And then think of something that makes you very joyful. And then if you want to, you can say a little prayer, or you can just engage your will, your intention to receive, to absorb this healing life energy. Noticing what you feel, having the intention to take this energy in. If any negative thoughts arise, not if, more like when, when negative thoughts arise, please hand them over. Noticing what you feel, having the will, the intention, like we're a satellite dish and we're opening and receiving this divine signal, taking in the good, being willing to let go of everything that's not good. So, welcome everyone who's joining in live. Welcome to everyone who's watching this video. So, Bruno Groening said, I call humanity to the great turnaround, the great reversal or great change. There's many ways to understand the German word, but in essence, a complete radical change, a complete reversal of our way of being. A little more specifically, he called us to recognize um, our need for God. In the 21st century, especially I live in the United States, a very prosperous country, it's very easy to think I don't need God. I just need to earn money and then then I can get food and then I can have a house. And it's very easy to think that way. And it's a complete deception. Human beings, according to Bruno Groening, and of course each person has to find out for themselves whether these teachings are true or not, but according to Bruno, and I'm utterly convinced it's true, we need God like we need air. Now it's true, we can't go very long without air as human beings. And someone could spend their whole life not thinking about God, not striving for God, but the question is, would they be happy? Not would they have pleasure, because of course there's lots of pleasures available that don't involve God, but would the person be actually happy? Well, according to Bruno Groening, without the divine, we're actually not living. If we're not under divine guidance, then we're actually under guidance from what Bruno Groening called evil. that which is not good, disharmony, dis-ease, and in essence, dishealth. So it's almost as if we're not in inspiration, we're in desperation. And having, through this practice, having really experienced communion and connection with the divine, um, I can honestly say I believe Bruno Groening's correct. In those moments when I'm not feeling, experiencing a sense of connection to the divine, and certainly when I'm not guided, I'm not really living. I'm biologically alive, but it's more like I'm just going through some habit, more like I'm going through the motions. But then this feeling that comes, and there's many ways to experience it, and tuning in is one of them. But this feeling, and then when we're living from that feeling and being guided by that very special good feeling, there's nothing like it. Nothing I've ever experienced anyway. So let's spend a little time continuing to take in this energy and reflecting on all this, noticing what you feel, taking in the good, Hmm. Someone just wrote, God Abend, which means it's Abend is German for evening. So it's a fun way to start the day. God morning, God afternoon, and God evening. And the thing is what is God? Most of us were raised with the most horrific ideas about God. That God was punishing and vengeful and angry and, you know, um, very, very, and that's the supreme power of the universe. Whereas Bruno Groening pointed out that God never punishes. And that God is like a loving parent and will allow us to make mistakes and experience the consequences of those mistakes, but is not wrathful. He went so far as to say that God is life and love and goodness and harmony. And so this is very important because if we're going to follow God, we can't be afraid of God. If we think God is vengeful or mean or cruel or insane, I mean, some of the things I was taught about God makes God out to just really be insane and cruel, then we're not going to follow God. We're not going to love God. We might love God a little bit, but underneath it all, be terrified. of doing the wrong thing and being punished by the almighty power of the universe. Whereas Bruno Groening very simply said, God never punishes. And when negative things happen, they're not a punishment. It's just God allowing the natural consequences of our actions. And also to set things up so that we can learn, so that we can learn and grow. So let's reflect on all this a little bit. Let's give away our ideas of God to God and ask to be shown the truth. Taking in the good, noticing what you feel, having the will, the intention to take in vital, good life force. So Bruno Groening also called us to the remembrance that inside each person there's something very sacred. He went so far as to say divine. He went so far as to say that God lives inside each one of us. And that actually God is everywhere, he said. So this is a very different view of God, a very different view of human beings. And so part of this path is to break our habit of not seeing the divinity in every person we come across. What if we looked for the good? That doesn't mean we suppress, if someone's behaving badly, we don't just ignore that. Hmm. But what if we simultaneously looked to what was underneath that, looked to the good, or just knew that there was a spark, a divine spark inside that person? So much of what I was taught in religion is about what happens in the other life after you die, after you leave this life. Yet Bruno Groening, and I believe this is accurate of Christ as well, most of what he taught about was how to live this life, what to do here. He called his teachings Lebensweisheit, life wisdom, how to live life. And the essence is, my understanding of the essence of that is to connect to the divine and be guided by it. And being very mindful moment by moment. It's something we deepen into of whether we're connected to good or whether we're connected to evil. And the main way to do this is to watch our thoughts. So let's take in more good energy. Let's watch our thoughts, taking in the good, taking it in with faith. As we become aware of negative thoughts, very vigilantly handing them over. So the thing is, Bruno pointed out very clearly that, for that us as individuals and humanity as a whole is really caught in the grasp of evil. And so to look at this requires some humility. We have to look inside of ourselves and see to what extent does evil, disorder, disharmony have a hold of us. We don't need to focus on it too much. We don't need to freak out, but we do need to be honest. And it requires some humility to look at the places where we fall short, when we do things that aren't good, aren't harmonious. And the other part of this humility is then asking God or a spiritual helper you trust for help. Of himself, Bruno Groening said, I am and remain a child, simply a child of God. Uh, let's see if I can remember the next part. I can't remember quite the next part he said, but and that he would, in essence, he was going to stay a child of God, and that sadly most other people had grown up or thought, he was making a joke that most other people thought they weren't children anymore, thought they were all big adults. Yes, we need to act responsibly, and before the infinite, before the supreme, before that which made us, according to Bruno Groening. And please, don't take my word, don't even take his word for it. Find out for yourself. Are we in fact children before infinite God? Is it true that we're children? And is it true that we need to take that attitude of utter dependence on God and obedience and being in service to God? Because Bruno Groening said, um, back to God. What does that mean? Does that mean going to church and reading a lot of books, spiritual or religious books? And that's how I was taught, you know, going out and preaching. Well, that could be part of it. But actually, what Bruno Groening taught is connecting to God and then following God, being guided by what's right and true and good. These are not complicated ideas, but to live them, that's what we're all doing here in the school of life, on this learning how to live these very simple ideas. So let's reflect on all this, noticing what you feel. Taking in the good. If it feels right, humbling ourselves before that which made us. In essence, Bruno Groening said, when your body was much smaller than it is now, it's still quite small, he pointed out, you had a pure, true prayer. I am small. Can we recognize how small and little we are before the infinite? And until we can make the same statement that Bruno Groening said, I am stronger than evil. Until we can make that statement, it's very important to stay humble and to recognize our need for help. As Bruno pointed out, Satan, another word for evil, Satan is Mighty, God is almighty. So we're up against a mighty foe, evil, Satan, and we need the almighty power to help us overcome it. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in today. And if there's anyone who's new watching this video, a very warm welcome to you. And welcome back to some familiar names. Thanks for the fun emojis. Thanks, Magdalena. And thank you, Magdalena. God Abend to you, Gerald. All right, dear ones, divine creations, divine marvels. We're here on this earth for a mission. All of us have the mission to learn and grow, but we each have a very specific mission, a task. To quote a famous American movie from the 70s, we're on a mission from God. So let's tune in, let's light up, and then let's go do our mission, friends. Take care. Much love.